My husband of 40 years ran away with my widowed sister-in-law and had a car accident. As he was dying, he grabbed my hand, his face full of unwillingness. Lynn, you must bury me and Lily together. In the next life, I want to be her husband. I cried and asked, Jack, do you really love her that much? He nodded and replied in a weak voice, yes, my love for her is as deep as the sea drying up and the rocks crumbling, steadfast as a mountain. If there is a next life, I want to spend it with her, as husband and wife, for all my days. He loves his widowed sister-in-law. What, then, is the worth of the greater part of my life's devotion? The feeling of betrayal made my whole body tremble. Wiping away my tears, I sneered and agreed coldly, Jack, go ahead and die in peace. If there is a next life, I will make sure you both get what you wish for. When I opened my eyes again, it was just as Jack was bringing my sister-in-law Lily back home. Seeing me standing there dazed, Jack impatiently raised his voice, Lynn, are you deaf? Big brother is gone, it's not easy for my sister-in-law to raise the child alone, so I'm bringing the two of them back to live here. Clean up the main room and let my sister-in-law and Nikki stay there. Also, my sister-in-law's health is poor, and Nikki is growing. Every day you must make sure each of them gets an egg. In my previous life, I refused Jack's request. Because I knew Lily had originally been Jack's girlfriend. It was just one accident, but brother Jack was seriously injured. The Yu family, wanting to prop up his spirits, forcibly married Lily off to the eldest son. Knowing the nature of that arrangement and fearing Jack and Lily might rekindle their old flame, I decisively refused. At the time, I told Jack, it's not easy for sister-in-law to raise the child alone. We can help her with spring planting and autumn harvests. We can also give her ration tickets and cloth coupons so she won't have to worry. Bringing her into our home isn't right. Sister-in-law will certainly remarry in the future. People in the countryside love to gossip. Once idle talk spreads, it won't sound good. Lily wailed and cried, grabbed the child and ran off. The old Yu household won't tolerate the two of us, better to die. By chance, a frightened ox from the production team charged over and collided with the mother and child. The child died on the spot. Lily was seriously injured. People from the production team and the commune came to discuss compensation. I worked at the supply and marketing cooperative and knew many people, so I shamelessly begged the commune leaders for more compensation. In the end, Lily received a large payout. After the deceased child was buried, Lily took that huge sum of money and left, never to return. After that incident, Jack and I had a cold war for a while. We said nothing, but we both knew. The nephew's death and Lily's departure became a thorn in each of our hearts. After the reforms and opening up, the supply and marketing cooperative went under. I took over its lease and opened a supermarket. Business grew and I made more and more money, and Jack reconciled with me. I felt guilty. I always suspected that my nephew's death and Lily's leaving were connected to what I had said that day. So I catered to Jack's every request. When motorcycles first became fashionable, I bought Jack one. When cell phones became all the rage, I bought Jack a phone. When private cars became common among ordinary people, I was the first to buy him one. Jack became the most stylishly dressed man for miles around. I thought he and I would support each other into old age. Dying and being buried together would have been a complete life. Who would have thought that at 60 he would elope with Lily? That day I had arranged a birthday banquet for him and booked a hotel. He was late. I called him, he didn't answer. Later, he sent me a text, Lynn, you are a boring, materialistic woman. After all these years of marriage, being with you has exhausted me. I want to be with Lily. Right now, I'm taking her abroad on a trip, and when we get back we'll get a divorce. My hands trembled with anger, my whole body shaking. If he wanted to be with Lily, he could have told me, I am not someone who clings. It's the 21st century, society is open-minded, divorce isn't shameful. He didn't tell me, yet went and did something as dishonorable as eloping. A 60-year-old's actions are no better than a 3-year-old's, all the books he read might as well have been stuffed into a dog's belly. He went abroad to enjoy himself, leaving me alone to bear the probing gazes of the guests. Seeing my pale face, they asked if I was unwell. I smiled and said, a bit tired, I'll rest for a while and I'll be fine. To save Jack's face, I even explained to everyone that he had something to do and would arrive later. While I calmed myself, I cursed Jack and his entire ancestral line several times in my head. At that moment, my phone rang. A traffic officer called. Jack had been in an accident. Lynn, are you stupid or deaf? Jack shoved me hard. I'm talking to you, can't you hear me? Lily looked at me, then at Jack, wiping away her tears. Jack, Lynn doesn't want me to come, I'd better go. If you two have a rift because of me, I'll feel guilty. As she spoke, tears fell in a torrent. Poor little Nicky, so young and already fatherless, and without a home. Jack's nephew Nicky tilted his head back and glared at me fiercely. Like a young bull, he charged at me, this is my and uncle's home. Our surname is you. You're from another family. Get out. I looked at Lily in astonishment. If she hadn't taught him those words, I'd never believe a child that age could say them. While I was distracted, Nicky shoved me again. Caught off guard, I landed hard on my backside. Pain woke me up. I was reborn. I had been reborn in the 80s. All the scenes from my previous life flashed before my eyes like a movie. I sprang to my feet like a carp flipping out of water. I snatched the olive green satchel from Jack's hand. Then I grabbed the wash basin with the red double happiness character from Lily. I pulled Nicky to his feet too. Smiling so widely my eyes disappeared, I said to the three of them, quick, quick, come inside. Why be polite with family? This is your home anyway. I was overly enthusiastic. Jack froze. Lily got even more nervous, shrinking back and hiding behind Jack. Only Nicky jumped up, excited as can be. He kicked off his cloth shoes that showed his toes and climbed onto the Kong to roll around and play. Jack stood still for a few seconds before he registered it. He reached out as if to touch my forehead. Lynn, are you running a fever? His hand hadn't yet touched my forehead when Lily cried out from the other side. Ouch, I twisted my ankle. Jack, help me up. Jack immediately turned away from me and went to support Lily. I sneered inwardly. That White Lotus act of hers always worked on Jack. Seeing the corner of my mouth lift, Jack hesitated for a moment while holding Lily's hand. His voice softened. Lynn, I want the main house for my sister-in-law and Nicky to live in. Also, after our eldest brother passed away, sister-in-law's health hasn't been good, and Nicky is still growing. Every morning when you cook, make sure each of them gets one egg. I cut Jack off. There's only one old hen at home, it lays an egg every 2 days. I can't be digging into a hen's rear every day to get an egg. Lily, who came from a well-off peasant family, covered her mouth. She snickered. Like Jack, she always looked down on my coarse speech and manners. I'm a country woman who finished only elementary school, I never learned to speak all fancy and refined. Jack is an elementary school teacher. Lily came from a well-off peasant family and completed middle school. Only later were well-off peasants denounced, and the Lee family fell on hard times. The Yu family was so poor it rang, even the mice would cry. Though poor, being among the poor and lower-middle peasants carried special prestige. When families looked for matches for their children, they preferred those from the poor and lower-middle peasants, sneering at those with origins among well-off peasants or capitalists. Lily took a liking to Jack and actively pursued him because she valued his identity as a poor farmer's son and his respectable job. Jack was a man who judged by appearances. He was attracted to Lily's delicate, willow-like demeanor. Both of them were educated people, with endless ideals and ambitions to discuss, poetry and songs to share. The suitor had feelings and the beloved was willing, the two of them clicked instantly. Watching them, I couldn't help but sigh. Fate's will has given me a second life, in this lifetime I must bring these two together. A lifetime is so long. I'm curious to see what kind of life the two of them will make of it. Without my financial support, could Jack live in a tall building or drive a luxury car? Without my connections, could he rise from a private school teacher to become a principal? I'm very eager to see how the story of these two will end. I kept zoning out, which made Lily overthink. She started performing like a white lotus again. Lynn, are you having doubts? It's not too late to change your mind. If you tell me to leave, I'll go right now. I grabbed her, laughing as I put my arm around her shoulders. Sister-in-law, you can't leave. If she left, I'd miss the show. I pushed Lily into the main room and made up her bed. Then I rolled up my own bedding and carried it away. Jack shouted, "Take mine too." I yelled back at him, "Sleep with sister-in-law then." Jack chased out and grabbed me. Red-faced, he scolded, "What nonsense are you spouting? Lynn, it might be forgivable that you're uneducated, but your words are vulgar and your thoughts filthy." How dare you say that? Who knows who lost respect for their elders, just retired and eloping with his widowed sister-in-law. Even God couldn't stand their disgrace and arranged a car crash that took them both. I shook his filthy hand off. Jack, I graduated from elementary school, you know that. Do you regret it? If you do, you can get a divorce. And another thing, your lofty, refined talk, poetry and verse, doesn't work in the countryside. Say it to a cow and the cow won't understand. Say it to a horse and the horse will kick. Right now, the main task of the living is to fill their bellies. Jack stood there stunned, a little at a loss. I had never been this sharp-tongued before. I quickly calmed myself and teased him in a normal tone, "Jack, if there's a Buddha in your heart, then what you think of is the Buddha. If there's a demon in your heart, you'll think only of demons. If you don't have filthy thoughts, you won't go to filthy places. The elder brother's wife is like a mother, the younger brother is like a son. Do you understand? You're sleeping in the same room as your sister-in-law, helping her look after Nikki, isn't that normal? I hung a cloth curtain in the middle of the Kong, didn't you see it? Or do you think it's more appropriate for me to build a wall down the center of the bed?" He was obviously a grown man, yet insisted on acting like a prissy little woman, worse than any old hag. I snapped like popping beans, then picked up my bedding and left. Seeing I didn't go to the side room but walked out the main gate, Jack chased after me again. "Lynn, where are you going?" I didn't look back. "I'm going to my eldest brother's house to stay. My sister-in-law said my brother's dead and she doesn't dare stay alone." "I'm not afraid." Jack stopped me, helplessness in his voice. "Are you mad?" "I didn't mean anything else. If I offended you with my words, I apologize." "You're not wrong. The one at fault was me, my eyes had been smeared with dog poop, I had mistaken the person. In my last life, to make it up to him, I tiptoed around and endured endless humiliation. Reborn, I must cut my losses in time, it's still not too late to pull away now." I pushed Jack aside and went to my eldest brother's home. The Kong was hot, I washed my face and feet, and when I crawled under the quilt, my anxious heart finally calmed. In the quiet of the night, I began to sort through what had happened across both lives. The urgent task was to divorce Jack. But divorcing wouldn't be easy. It was the 1980s. Although reform and opening up had begun, our place was still very closed off in its customs. I rashly asked for a divorce, and my parents were the first to refuse. Having lived two lives, I'm not afraid of other people's whispers and pointing fingers, I'm only afraid of my mother's crying, shouting, and dramatic threats. Their generation clung to the old idea of staying faithful to one. Even if a husband beat you or a mother-in-law bullied you, you grit your teeth and endure, hanging yourself on the same tree for your whole life. My marriage to Jack was an arrangement made by both parents when we were children. My father once said that after marriage I would no longer be surnamed Lynn. Alive, I belonged to the Yu family, dead, I become a ghost of the Yu family. The elder's feudal mindset was deeply rooted, and in my previous life I too held to that one and only belief. In my past life, after he came into money, Jack stopped coming home every few days. He always said he was on duty at school, and I believed him. It wasn't until he ran off with Lily and I pieced together the earlier clues that I became certain Jack and Lily had been seeing each other behind my back for a long time. In my previous life, as I was dying, Jack's resentment and curses still echoed in my ears. In this life, even if I were to become a nun in a temple, I would never be his wife again. I would seize the evidence against Jack. I would make him willingly agree to a divorce and sway the neighborhood gossip to my side. More importantly, I would make my parents see Jack's true face. The next morning I got up early to cook. Jack and Lily were still asleep. I knocked loudly on the door before they, rubbing their bleary eyes, crawled out of bed. I ladled 2 bowls of cornmeal, pulled a few big scallions, and planned to make a pot of dumpling soup. I told Jack to tend the fire and deliberately acted intimate, leaning close to his ear as I spoke. Lily, washing her face inside, kept sneaking glances into the kitchen. Seeing our closeness and whispered words, she was so angry she threw down her towel. At the table I studied Jack's face, even pinched his arm, saying with concern, "Since your older brother passed, you've wasted away. Tomorrow I'll buy some eggs for you to mix with water and drink." Seeing me unusually gentle, Jack nodded repeatedly. "The supply station is busy too, you need to take care of yourself as well." I leaned my head against Jack's shoulder, moved. "Jack, you're the only one in this world who's ever been good to me, who's ever cared for me." Lily stood to the side, her head slightly bowed, her face went from white to red, then from red to a sallow blue. Her fingers gripped the chopsticks so tight. She flung them down onto the table and said, "I'm full." Then she turned and walked out. Acting is exhausting, pretending makes me feel like vomiting. Luckily Lily broke down. She left, and I stopped pretending too. After the meal I got up and left. Pushing the cart, I went through the streets and alleys collecting wild mountain herbs to sell in town. In my previous life, after I took over the supply and marketing cooperative, I ran daily operations while also working as an agricultural product broker. Men can't be relied on, I must focus on my career. With a chance to be reborn and having seized the initiative, I resolved to get MY going ahead of time. After a busy day, at night I sneaked home and crouched by the back window, pressing my ear to the wall. In the morning, my intimate scene with Jack had provoked Lily. At night, she was bound to take action. Sure enough, under the moonlight Lily lifted the cloth curtain, slipped into Jack's bed, and clung to the scumbag, sobbing. Jack murmured comforts to her. As they held each other, they rolled together into one heap. I hurried back to my parents' home and woke my mom and dad. Then I roused the brigade secretary. Still half asleep, the secretary frowned and asked, "You girl, making a racket in the dead of night and won't let people sleep, what are you making such a fuss for?" "Uncle Sam, there's a man in my house. I'm afraid someone will bully my sister-in-law." They all lived very close to my house, a 3 to 5 minute walk. Lovers like that burn fast, they shouldn't finish so quickly. I had already given my dad the heads up, so he was the first to jump in. Right after, the neighborhood squad leader clambered in through the window frame. Someone pulled the lamp cord by the edge of the Kong, and the bare bulb hanging from the beam lit up. Under the yellow light, Lily was straddling Jack. Both of them were naked, their eyes glazed, sweat streaming off them, an indecent sight, unbearable to look at. I grabbed the feather duster and lashed out at the adulterous pair. As I hit them I sobbed loudly, "You two are taking advantage of people. My uncle and his sister-in-law getting together, that's a crime of lechery." Jack flipped Lily over. Flustered, he yanked his pants on, jumped off the Kong, and fell to his knees on the floor. "Lynn, I was half asleep, I thought Lily was you, please spare me." "Damn it, he lies without batting an eye and drags me into it too." I slapped his face, his shoulders, hitting harder and harder. My crying grew louder. When I had no tears left I howled, trying to rouse the whole neighborhood. Jack sobbed until snot ran. "Please, have mercy, I can't lose my job." Lily also hastily threw on a vest, knelt on the ground and shivered. The brigade secretary grabbed the jerk by the ear and scolded, "I've watched you grow up. You're so disappointing, doing something so shameful? If this gets out, how will you hold your head up in front of people?" I cried my heart out, and the feather duster didn't stop. The dog couple dodged left and right, forced to protect their heads with their hands. The brigade secretary pulled me back. Stop, stop. What do you want to do? I shouted. They broke our home, rode my neck and shit on me. I want a divorce. The next day I went to the brigade secretary for a letter of introduction and smoothly finalized the divorce. I moved back to my mother's house. Seeing the divorce certificate, my mother kept wiping her eyes, sighing and moaning. At first I had the wrong idea about Jack. The little brother-in-law and the sister-in-law getting together, he didn't even find it shameful. He trampled our old Lynn family's face into the dirt. My father scolded me. You girl, you even connived against me. Your schemes are more numerous than holes in a hornet's nest. Be careful Jack doesn't realize everything later and come after you. I teased him. I'm not afraid. In any case, I caught them in the act, that's a fact. There are no parents in the world who can outlast their children's will. They can't accept it for now, but later they will surely understand. Still, they feel very disheartened. They believe that a woman who remarries will have a hard time from then on. I comforted them. Don't worry, the good days for our family are still ahead. Those two scoundrels might not make it to old age. In my previous life, I handled all the housework and social obligations. Jack would disdain me for being uneducated and too worldly, while at the same time enjoying my meticulous care. Lily came from a wealthy peasant family. Apart from poems and songs, she couldn't lift a bag or carry anything on her shoulder. I didn't believe they could run their lives well. As it turned out, my mouth proved prophetic. Not even half a month later, Nikki ran to my house. Auntie, help. My dad beat my mom to death. Lives are at stake. I didn't hesitate and ran to the Yu family. Lily's hair was disheveled, her face smeared with blood and soot. Jack's eyes were bloodshot. When he saw me, he pointed at the pile of chicken feathers on the ground, heartbroken. We only had one old hen in the house, the one that laid eggs. She went and killed it to stew for meat. Jack was so frantic he was hopping, as if Lily hadn't killed a chicken but his parents. Every morning I eat a boiled egg to keep my strength up. Now that's gone. I looked at the steaming big iron pot. The chicken was already cooked. I felt a certain satisfaction. This bad temper is all my fault for having raised Jack. I worried about his health, so every morning I'd beat an egg for him, dilute it with hot water, and add a little sugar. I couldn't bear to eat it myself. I saved the tasty things for him. Now the hen that laid the eggs is stewed, and his little kitchen is gone. I shifted my gaze from the cooked chicken to Lily. Her eyes were swollen down to a slit, and she was half collapsed on the floor. She'd been crying recently, tears still clung to her face. Hearing me, she staggered to her feet. Ashamed, she shouted at me, Lynn, don't gawk at me like I'm a joke. Get out. What a mad dog, snapping at people at random. Who cares about your family mess? If Nikki hadn't cried and begged me to come, and if you hadn't been on your knees pleading, I wouldn't have shown up either. Lynn, don't think I don't know, you're still hung up on Jack. I'm telling you, Jack married me. If you ever come trying to seduce him again, I'll break your legs. Damn. I handed her the dog's hit, and she treated it like a treasure. As if that weren't enough, she even insulted me for supposedly clinging to dog's hit. I wouldn't indulge her either. The shit you drag out, you can eat it back, I won't. What you think is a treasure is just something I thought was too dirty. If it weren't for Nikki being afraid you'd get beaten to death, I wouldn't have come. To make her give up completely, I deliberately tore off the bandage to provoke her. The night we caught them, it was staged on purpose. I did it because I wanted to divorce Jack. Lily was furious, her rage wild, pointing at me and shouting, how vulgar. No wonder my Jack doesn't want you. Jack has always loved me. If he didn't love me, your schemes wouldn't work. Seeing us argue, Jack stepped forward and pushed me away. Lynn, please don't come to my house. My business with Lily is none of your concern. I raised my hand and slapped him. I put all my strength into that one slap, sending Jack stumbling several steps. Jack, don't touch me. Today I'm letting myself be shameless. Remember this, from now on, even if you two die in the street, I won't care. All the frustrations and betrayals from the previous life flooded back into my mind. Summoning all my strength, I raised my hand and struck the other side of his face hard. Jack howled, grabbed his face, and blood trickled through his fingers. Lily stood up and shouted at me, "How dare you hit my man? Who gave you the nerve?" I stood my ground, staring at her with a cold face. "You want to try the taste of being slapped in the face?" I rolled up my sleeves and waved at them. "Or, the two of you want to both come at me?" Their faces changed and they both stepped back at once. They knew I was in good shape, two of them couldn't take me. I could lift 100-pound sack on my own. I could carry 50 pounds of jujube pits from home to the county to sell, a 60-li route round trip in a day. Once, Jack had laughed at me more than once, saying I was as strong as an ox, like one of the men, without a trace of femininity. What he didn't know was that the good life he enjoyed was paid for by my health. I glared at them hard and warned, "From now on, steer clear of me. If not, I'll hit you every time I see you." I walked out of the house. Jack, for reasons I couldn't fathom, actually chased after me. "Lynn, wait, I have something to say." "Jack, get lost. If you come any closer, believe me, I'll gouge your eyes out." I jabbed a finger at Jack's nose. "Are you an animal? Didn't you hear what I just said?" Jack chased me, and Lily, overcome with jealousy, broke into tears. "Jack, come back. You're my man, why are you pestering Lynn? Are you trying to hit on her?" Lily screamed hoarsely, ran up, and grabbed Jack. Jack shrugged her off. "I have something to ask Lynn." "No." Lily clung to Jack's arm. "You're my man. You can't cut ties with her like that." I kept walking forward. Jack tore himself free of Lily. Lily chased after him, crying and shouting. When Nicky saw both his father and mother running out, he ran after them too. He ran and called, "Mom, wait for me." The moment Nicky burst out, a crazed old ox came charging. Its hard horn lifted the child in the red vest. The ox let out an earth-shattering bellow and flung Nicky high into the air, then slammed him down hard. Blood flowed, staining the ground. Seemingly startled, the old ox reared up and drove its hard horn toward Lily. Jack shouted sharply. The ox, seeing him, came to its senses for a moment and then lunged at Jack. Jack's face went deathly pale as he dashed towards me. "Lynn, save me. Damn it, trying to kill me." Quick as a flash, I grabbed a poplar trunk beside me and scrambled up. The old ox plowed into the tree and died on the spot. I patted my chest, shaken. Thank God I'm fit, I was up to the top of the tree in no time. If it had been someone else, they'd have been skewered on those horns. Lily clutched Nicky and sobbed. The production team sent a cart to take the child to the county hospital. Jack hesitated. He wanted to get in, but he didn't want to go. Lily called to him. He felt in his pockets, looking embarrassed. I have no money." They both turned to look at me. Lily began to cry out again, calling me, "Lynn, I know you have money, please help us." Seeing the child bleeding profusely, my heart softened. To be honest, I had no feelings for Nicky. This child had been badly influenced by Lily. The last time he knocked me down, the things he said are still fresh in my memory. Looking at the mangled child, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. I hesitated for a moment, then ran back home to get money. The carriage left first. I grabbed the cash and raced to the production team to borrow a horse. Riding was faster than the carriage. We arrived at the hospital almost simultaneously. Inside, Jack was arguing with Lily. "The doctor says it's almost hopeless. Do you still want to save him? Borrow money for treatment, and if the person doesn't make it, everything's for nothing. What do you want me to do? You don't have a job, my wages are meager, how am I supposed to repay the debt?" Lily wept, as if she'd made a firm decision. "The child is yours. Do you say we should save him or not?" Jack froze. I was even more shocked. Jack spotted me and hurried over. I handed him the money and turned to leave. In my previous life, I had always believed Nicky was the child of Big Brother and Lily. Who would have thought he was actually the product of Lily's affair with Jack? The feeling of betrayal made me tremble inside. Then I comforted myself, at least I wasn't deceived for a lifetime. A few days later, Jack and his wife returned. Nicky was dead. What a fiasco. After Nicky died, Jack and his wife's relationship grew even more distant. You could often hear them arguing. Jack cursed Lily for being clumsy, not knowing how to cook, not being able to earn money. Lily cursed Jack for being incompetent and earning little. Poverty makes married life miserable. In the previous life, Jack had everything he wanted, I supported him through it all. Now he experienced what it felt like to live without money. One day, I heard they had been fighting again. Lily was on her period and her stomach hurt, she wanted brown sugar water. Jack had no money to buy it, and the two got into an argument that turned physical. Lily struck Jack on the head with a hammer. Jack lost consciousness. When I heard about their fight, I just smiled, very relieved. Evil people are tempered by other evil people. In my previous life I treated Jack far too well, he didn't know how to cherish it. Now that he's with the one he loves most, let them torment each other. They finally learned that love and lofty ideals are worth nothing in the face of eating, drinking, and the toilet. I kept buying mountain produce and medicinal herbs. I took them home to sort and weigh, and then hauled them to town to sell. With the experience from my last life, I knew which herbs were valuable and where they'd fetch a good price. It hadn't been a month since my divorce from Jack before I used the money I'd earned to buy a carriage. A carriage could haul much more. I filled it up and sent a full load to the market. My parents saw me in high spirits, apparently unaffected by the divorce, and they finally felt at ease. We left for the city early, setting out at 2 in the morning. My father, worried that I, a girl, might be afraid, rode along with me. The carriage threaded through the trees and was just about to turn onto the main road when a figure rushed out. Old Ma reared and neighed twice. Luckily my father is experienced, he hauled the reins and calmed the horse. I thought it was bandits. I grabbed the cleaver, jumped down, braced for a fight. But the man raised his hands first and shouted, "Lynn, it's me, Jack." Damn it, people really know how to scare you to death, doesn't that scumbag know that? Furious, I raised the cleaver. Jack went pale. Just as the blade was about to reach his shoulder, I switched to the back of the cleaver. Even the flat of the blade struck his shoulder, Jack had no time to dodge and went down to his knees. He gasped and held in pain, but he wasn't angry. Instead he laughed and called out to me, "Lynn, I'm off today, I'll come with you to town to sell herbs." Sell herbs, my ass. Get out, you're filthy, I'm afraid you'll soil my whole cart. I climbed back onto the cart. My father flicked his whip and accidentally lashed Jack across the face. Old Ma kicked her 4 legs and we resumed our journey. Jack swallowed his grievance and didn't dare say I had cut him. He told everyone he'd been walking at night and accidentally fallen into a ditch. He was afraid Lily would cause him trouble. My business kept growing and I made more and more money. I never forgot my original intention, one person being rich doesn't count as real wealth. I wanted to lead my fellow villagers onto the path of prosperity together. I set up agricultural produce buying stations in each hamlet and entrusted their management to respected people in the villages. Then I hired young women to work as shop assistants in my supermarket. They earned more than the yields from the fields, which not only helped cover household expenses but also raised the women's status within their families. My reputation grew. Before long I was featured in the city paper and was honored by the Women's Federation as a March 8 Red Banner holder. Jack still came to our house frequently, only now he carried Lily on his back. None of us gave him a friendly face. When I lost my temper, I'd grab an axe, a shovel, or whatever tool was at hand and beat him. On my birthday he got completely plastered. Holding snow cream and hand balm, he burst into tears when he saw me. "Lynn, it's your birthday today, this is for you. I'm sorry for hurting you before. For my sake you saved eggs for me to eat, always denying them to yourself. You wouldn't even buy snow cream when your face was dry and peeling. In winter your hands cracked, and you still couldn't bear to buy hand balm. I got a bonus, this is just a little of my gratitude. My eyes stung and felt hot. Once, in winter I washed clothes with cold water using bare hands, and in heavy snow I went into the mountains to cut wood. My hands froze purple like eggplants, when they met heat they oozed pus and hurt and itched. Jack never cared about me. He dressed cleanly and neatly and strutted everywhere. Seeing my reddened eyes, Jack pushed his luck and tried to hold me. I kicked him away. Get lost. Want to bet I'll tell Lily about you harassing me? Jack quarrels with Lily every day. Lily has shown her lazy, gluttonous true colors. Yet Lily clings to Jack like a lifeline, afraid that if she lets go she'll lose this meal ticket. Jack collapsed to his knees with a thud and confessed. Lynn, I was wrong. When you slapped me that time, I suddenly came to my senses. A lot of things flashed through my mind, like in a dream. After Nikki died, I was in a low place and didn't pay attention. Later, I kept dreaming, and that's when I realized I had been given a second chance at life. He wept bitterly. Living again made me see that you were always the best to me. I'll divorce Lily, and we can get back together, will you? I felt as if cold water had been poured over my head. No wonder after I slapped him he snapped awake and stared at me with wide eyes. He even came after me when I left. If he hadn't chased me out, Nikki wouldn't have died. You could say everything is predestined. Seeing me stand stock still, Jack reached for my hand. I bounced away, opened the sunroof and spoke plainly, give up that idea. I'm not a landfill, I'm not taking in every bit of trash. You begged me before you died, begging me to make things right for you in the next life, now I have. Jack, the blisters on your feet were earned by your own steps. I'd advise you to grit your teeth and walk away. There's no remedy for regret. As a man, not only do you show no sense of responsibility, you can't even control your own lower half, and you still have the nerve to ask for reconciliation? He only cares because I make money and can give him a better life. This life, I hope those two of them stay tightly locked away. I tore into him without mercy. Jack flushed red. Seeing I was adamant about not remarrying, he mumbled and hemmed for a long time, then started scolding me again. Lynn, you know you have me in your heart. Otherwise, you wouldn't have engineered the divorce to get back at me. I waved my hand contemptuously. Jack, the best revenge in the world is living better than you. You're not important to me, so I have no need to get even. I simply want a divorce, to get away from a scumbag, and live a peaceful life. Jack's eyes were rimmed in red, you could tell he regretted it. I, however, felt only irony. He'd played a winning hand into the ground himself, he got what he deserved. After I made my position clear and refused to reconcile, Jack never came to see me again. He went on living with Lily. They still fought. Jack behaved out of character. He took on all the housework. Under Lily's pressure, he handed over his entire paycheck. Lily did nothing at home. Even her underwear and socks were washed by Jack. A neighbor aunt teased him, Jack, I've never seen you wash Lynn's clothes before, now you're starting to wash Lily's? Jack smiled bitterly, I deserve all of this, I let the shit blind me. Lily's 10 fingers never touched a drop of ordinary life. She buried her head in writing poetry every single day and sent her submissions to the provincial newspaper. She said she was a literary muse descended to earth and that one day she would become a great poet. The mailman came to their house every day to deliver and collect mail. Stamp money alone cost several yuan a month. More than a year passed and not a single poem of hers had been published. Lily's expenses were enormous. Jack was furious to the point of death, but he had no one to complain to. New Year's Eve. A family reunion, a day full of joy, yet shouting came from the Yu household. Neighbors on the street heard it and went to watch. In the Yu house, besides Jack, there were 2 other men. One was the mailman. According to Jack's accusations, the mailman had gotten involved with Lily, and Jack had discovered it. The other man, wearing round-framed glasses, was refined and gentle. He pointed at Lily, sobbing until he could hardly breathe. "You promised me you would take good care of Nicky, how could you let him die? I went to the countryside and suffered, wasn't it all for you and your son? How could you marry someone else? Lily, what you did is illegal, don't you know that? I arrived too late, it was the neighbor who told me what had happened." It turned out Lily had long since married another man. He was also a well-off peasant, but because of his class background he had been sent to the countryside for reform. Alone and afraid that her bad background would expose her to persecution, Lily, with a child in her womb, married into the Poirier family. But the marriage registrations weren't connected across systems, and no one knew she had married twice. After the original husband returned reformed, he tracked her down after some twists and turns. Their biological son was dead, his wife had remarried, and feeling betrayed, he started arguing with Lily. Not only was the original wife angry, Jack was even angrier. Veins bulged on his forehead, his eyes bloodshot. It was as if he saw a vast green expanse sprouting on his head. He once believed that he and Lily were true love. Who knew that true love would plant a whole prairie on his skull? "You bitch, wasn't I good enough to you? For you, I divorced Lynn. For the sake of family harmony, I handed over my salary and took on the housework. When I was with Lynn, I never did any of this. I laid my heart bare for you, and you secretly ran off with another woman. And it wasn't just one, there were so many. Nicky was hospitalized, and you lied to me, saying it was my son. You have gone too far." Betrayal robbed him of his reason. Jack snatched the shovel from the wall and brought it down on Lily. Later, because of limited medical options, they had to amputate to save her life. Jack was arrested and sent to prison, and he lost his job. After Lily was discharged, she had nowhere to go. She went back to her hometown to try to reconcile with her original partner, but he refused and drove her out. After that, no one ever saw her again. 5 years later, my supermarket had opened more than 20 branches across the province and provided jobs for nearly 1,000 women. Their purses fattened, their standing in the family improved, they straightened their backs and gained a voice at home. The sisters were deeply grateful to me. I was named a National Outstanding Female Entrepreneur and went to the capital to receive the honor. I also became a representative to the Provincial People's Congress, offering suggestions for the country's development. Bedecked with honors, I nonetheless never forgot my original intention. On the way back from the conference, I came across a beggar in tattered clothes at the train station. He hunched over and grabbed at travelers, begging, he didn't spare a single one. When he reached me and realized who I was, he turned and ran. I shook my head with a smile and set out on a new journey.